So now we're going to talk a little bit about how trauma affects the brain, okay? The brain is that thing that drives every part of our whole body, and so it's really important for us to understand that trauma doesn't just impact us if we've been hurt by someone, we have an impact on the body. It sets in, as we talked about through the attachment cycle, it sets in an understanding of who we are in this world in relationship with others and with God. But the impact on the brain is a little more straight up biological, okay? It's not as nebulous as this idea of attachment that some of us may be struggling with because of our own histories and attachment. The effect on the brain is very, very well documented. It's helpful to understand that there are a couple of really key parts of the brain that come into play when we engage with people in this world. So the brain has an upstairs part, which is our thinking brain, and it has a downstairs part, which is more of our survival, primitive brain. And in that downstairs part, there is a little lima bean-shaped part called the amygdala. So the amygdala is that part of us that sees danger and freaks out. That's right. So if you've ever walked into a room and known that something was just not quite right, or you've run across a person and you felt a little not safe for a moment, and you notice, oh, maybe I'm breathing a little more rapidly, or maybe I'm in a situation and I can feel that my palms start to get a little sweaty and my breathing increases, my heart rate increases. Whenever we aren't feeling safe, and it's just a feeling, it's a biological response, our amygdala fires. And our amygdala fires based on what our experiences have been. So you may ask yourself, but you've been talking about these kids that have this foundational understanding or that have this foundational difficulty. They didn't experience very much. And so I do want to, help you understand what we experience in the womb does help to set that threshold as well. That we can actually are activating the amygdala in utero. So any of those, that cortisol, adrenaline, excitatory neurotransmitters that mom is experiencing, baby's experiencing that in utero as well. And that does set a threshold. So this impact of trauma on the brain can happen all the way from the first 9 months of life up into, when we're done, right? So the amygdala, that watchdog, maybe think of it as like your spidey sense that tells you something is not right, something is amiss. And it has one job, and its job is to freak out. That's right, it freaks out. That's what it does. It freaks out. And when it freaks out, it activates and sends information through the limbic system and says, time to freak out. That impulse goes right by this thing called a hippocampus. So the hippocampus is like the library of your brain. That's right, you have a library in your brain. It's your memory center. It's how you remember things. And so in that library, there are all these books. And some of them are blank because you haven't had those memories yet, and some of them have things written on them. And what is important for us to know is that that amygdala impulse is running by through the limbic system, and it is yelling next to the hippocampus on its way through, do you have any strategies? And the hippocampus is going to answer yes or no. Okay? So as the hippocampus answers yes, that's great news because the hippocampus goes, aha, I in fact have a manual for that. Let me go get it. Gets the manual and says, we've had this feeling before. We did not die. Here are our clear strategies for overcoming this particular lack of safety. And that helps them, that impulse go right up to the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is like, yeah, I actually know how to calm you down because the hippocampus gave me this manual. Let's go ahead and calm down and engage your coping skills and some problem solving. We're going to be A-okay. But if there's nothing in the hippocampus, if the hippocampus is like, I'm so sorry, I've never even heard of that volume, all the brain can do is go to our fight, flight, or freeze. It's an automatic switch that is flipped that says, all right, we have no strategy. There's a nanosecond decision that the brain makes to decide, can I overpower through fight? Can I overpower this threat through fight? Can I get away by fleeing, by flight? Or do I need to just disassociate from my body and disconnect so I don't feel pain. So those are the options. That's it. It's these three things that happen. We don't have any control over which one the brain decides in that split well, it's not even a split second, it's a nanosecond, how quickly it just decides, okay, here's what I do. I don't have a strategy, so I'm going to just go to my primal instinct of survival in my downstairs brain, my lizard brain, my survival brain. Okay? How do these strategies get written? Well, people can't write their own strategies, turns out. They have to experience them. And it's done in relationship. It's done in relationship from our earliest moments when we express that distress and caregiver comes and says, I know you feel like you're going to die, but I in fact have a plan of how to keep you alive, and I'm going to do that plan right now. I'm going to enact that plan right now. But caregiver doesn't say all those words. Caregiver picks up child, brings child close, pats child on the back and says, pretty much universally, it's okay. It's okay. I got you. You're going to be okay. What do you need, baby? And when that happens, that is communicating, there is somebody who is here, and it teaches that brain, I can have this feeling and not die. And there's someone who's coming, and they are giving me experiences that is writing on the manual of my brain. Here is my clear strategy when I'm feeling this way. And we have to experience that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in order for that neural pathway to be formed in the brain so we can draw on that. So this is why it doesn't work to say, yeah, you're on your own, kiddo. Because that kiddo needs us to help them to overcome that distress in a healthy way that gives them a strategy to be able to move forward in life to make decisions, for those problem-solving skills and those coping skills to be enacted. So it's up to us to write on the brains of the one in front of us.